broken, 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 broken. That has been the refrain this summer, a summer that showed Canadians once again that the Prime Minister and the Liberal government just aren't worth the cost. And I suspect that that was the refrain that they felt last night after a brutal loss in a safe riding in Montreal, where Canadians sent the Prime Minister yet another message to say that his plan isn't working. And nowhere is that truer than in our immigration system, than in our citizenship system. So let's go back to 2015, the last time the Conservative government was in charge. We had a consensus in this country, and it was a multi-generational consensus that actually existed long before 2015, a system that worked for our economy, with inflation low and home prices half of what they are today, and a system that kept our nation safe from terrorist attacks and multinational criminals. A system that was truly the envy of the world, where you can come to this country welcomed with open arms in an effort to build a life better than the one that you left behind. But just in 9 short years, none of that is true today. Housing prices keep going up, reaching record highs in cities, small, large, well, everywhere. International students living 7, 10, 15 to a basement, or even resorting to homeless shelters or certainly food banks. Opportunity keeps slipping away in the face of higher taxes, more expensive groceries, and yes, more and more people in the way. People who come here promised a new beginning. Instead, they find that the hard work just doesn't pay off, and shockingly, they don't want to stay. In fact, they want to leave. And it's all made worse by a government that can't seem to exhibit a single ounce of competence and organization in immigration, and that's why the consensus is broken. They lost 1 million people, and they still can't tell Canadians where they are. The Minister of Public Safety just a couple weeks ago insisted that the system is working when a terrorist was given citizenship. The member from Kingston and the Islands, who I missed very much over the summer, claims that they're delivering results for Canadians, and Canadians keep sending them the same message, that simply isn't the case. Because nobody with an ounce of common sense can step back and say things in Canada are working as they should be right now. And if this is what the Liberals consider as delivering results, then I'd hate to see what not delivering results looks like. Even when they don't know where the people are, the system still doesn't work, and incompetence still reigns supreme. This government gave citizenship to a terrorist who appeared in an ISIS snuff video and somehow passed 6 security checks while plotting an attack in the country's biggest city. They gave a student visa to a guy planning a massacre on Jews on the anniversary of October 7th, all while being exposed for not even checking his criminal record, a record for any temporary resident. This was just in the past month alone. With each successive blow, Madam Speaker, the confidence amongst Canadians and our peers abroad in the integrity of our system, our immigration system, and who we grant citizenship to, and the basic ability of government to get anything done is certainly a question. No one of us should relish in the fact that the Canadian immigration system seems to be falling apart right in front of us. I'm the child of immigrants. There are many children of immigrants. There are many immigrants themselves, many of our colleagues, our constituents. We can testify to the power of a necessary immigration system. Without it, a system that lacks the integrity just doesn't work, and Canadians won't trust it. If not for immigration, my family would have never been able to experience the freedom of opportunity that this country gave us. If not for immigration, our communities would never benefit from the skills and the expertise and the countless doctors and nurses and engineers and tradespeople and the many people who built this country. And if not for immigration, our country would never be strengthened by the values and pluralism of our newcomers that are rooted in their culture and what that provides for us. So what happened in less than a decade is nothing less than a tragedy, which is why it's even more disappointing to see the Liberal government plowing headfirst into more misguided policies like this one, rather than taking the time to fix what's wrong. Further extending the reach of Canadian citizenship in the same ham-fisted and incompetent way that we've come to expect. They can't even tell us how many people will be eligible under this piece of legislation. Surely they can come up with a model. The government cannot possibly believe that they still have the confidence of anyone in this country to simply say, trust us, we've got this. This bill threatens the integrity and the security of the citizenship system. And in December of 2023, as you know, as we've said here in the House, the Ontario Superior Court declared that the first-generation cutoff rule for the Canadian Citizenship Act was unconstitutional. The Ontario Superior Court itself found a 50% error rate in the Liberal-run Citizenship Department with abnormally long processing times and malpractice. The NDP Liberals took 6 months to respond to Bill C-71, showing a blatant lack of urgency, which they claimed to have found today. This bill proposes to grant citizenship to individuals born abroad, at least one Canadian parent who has spent 1,095 days in Canada. We know that, without requiring that these days are consecutive and without provisions of checks of the criminal code. And we know that other countries require more time and certainly more consecutive time. And I don't think it's out of line to ask for a security check, given what we've seen just in the last month in this country with a public safety minister that says the system is working as it should. We see in this debate that the Liberal Party voted in favor of C-37. That's the bill that was here prior to that they seem to have conveniently forgotten about entirely today, and certainly have forgotten that they supported, not once, but twice, first reading, second reading, and unanimous consent to pass the bill. They voted in favor of the very ideas that they are attacking in this bill today. This further erodes the consensus that I spoke about the system, the lack of consensus that exists in our system. Doubling down on citizenship by Zoom, pushing forward with the present path, even as evidence shows that we're not building enough homes, that we're not credentialing those who should be able to work here in their professions, and that we're obviously not doing our due diligence. That's clear. That's a message that they should have heard over the summer, and that's a message that they probably heard at the doors in Montreal last night. And perhaps most egregiously, giving people who created this mess even more responsibility in government of running this government. The guy who used to be the immigration minister, the guy responsible for losing those million people, is now being promoted to the guy who's supposed to build houses in this country. A guy who ignored advice from his own ministry, instead chose to pursue a blind political agenda. You know what happened? They gave him a promotion. And the guy under whose nose blossomed a corrupt and phony international student program alongside a foreign worker program called a breeding ground for modern-day slavery. The guy who's in large part responsible for the debate that we're having today as the Ontario court cited bureaucratic incompetence at the IRCC as a major reason for its decision. Spoiler alert, the minister cannot run the system, and he can't build homes either, and that shouldn't surprise anyone. We need to fix this broken system, and we need to fix it for those who want to come here and create a better life, for the promise of Canada, for the promise that if you come here and you work hard, you should be able to buy a home in a safe neighborhood. You should be able to work in your profession to the scope of its practice and to the scope of your education, and you should know that when you come in here. What we have right now is a broken consensus in the public because the system doesn't work. Because people who come here cannot achieve the dream that we have so promised and cannot achieve the dream that so many of us and our constituents have benefited from. And that's a shame, Madam Speaker.